On Wednesday the 25th of January, I was invited to go on the site of the new HS2 station at Old Oak Common, being constructed in northwest London, to see how work was progressing. I've already made a video about the station itself, so I won't go into too much detail about the station and services, but I will say that once complete, Old Oak Common will be a new super hub that will allow passengers to change between HS2 services, the Elizabeth line and GWR services to the southwest. If you'd like to know more, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about how the station is being constructed and the progress that has been made since construction began in 2021. Looking over the enormous site that currently employs 800 workers, it can be difficult to work out what has actually been achieved over the past 2 years, but I can assure you that construction teams have been hard at work and some key milestones will soon be reached. The diaphragm wall, which surrounds the station box, which is 850 metres long, 70 metres wide and will eventually be 15 metres deep, is around 95% complete. The panels of the wall, which have been constructed to a depth of 30 metres, have been constructed one concrete panel at a time by a machine which uses a clamshell bucket to excavate straight down. I don't have any footage of one in action, but here's an image to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. During excavation, the trench is filled with a heavy polymer-based fluid which helps to stop the trench from caving in. Once excavated, a rebar mesh is placed inside and concrete is then poured in to form the wall. The concrete, being heavier than the trenching fluid, drops to the bottom as the trench is filled and the fluid is pumped out and stored to be reused for the next panel. Now that the retaining wall is largely complete, work has begun to excavate the huge box that will require the removal of 800,000 cubic metres of material. Excavation is being carried out using track loaders and excavators to shift the earth below openings in the concrete ground slab that was previously just like a concrete floor but is now acting more like a roof. The material is then lifted to the surface using specialist long-reach excavators with a clamshell bucket which deposits the spoil into waiting articulated dump trucks or ADTs. The ADTs then drive the relatively short distance to a hopper which is fed by another excavator. This hopper then takes the spoil via conveyor to the HS2 logistics hub at Willesden Euro Terminal before finally being loaded onto waiting trains to be taken to 3 destinations across the country to be used for land reclamation. The northern part of the box that we were taken into has already been excavated down to a depth of 7 metres. This is a halfway point known as the intermediate level and was used to construct concrete struts that will help to support the retaining wall. As you can see, this looks like a permanent floor, however it is in fact just a temporary concrete base which has been used to construct the supports. The level concrete floor had shuttering installed onto it, into which a rebar mesh was constructed before being filled with concrete to form the support. Now that the supports on the northern section have been completed, workers are excavating down to the final depth of 15 metres. In this shot, just to the side of the track loader, you can see part of the temporary concrete floor that has been broken up. The steel box structures to the right of this shot are the tops of just a few of the 160 57 metre long piles that will work in conjunction with the base slab to help resist ground heave, which is the tendency of the earth to want to push back up into the box from below. Construction of the diaphragm wall will be completed imminently and excavation of the box is expected to be completed within months, which is a monumental achievement given the scale of the task. Engineers are using tried and tested methods to build a new station, however the only other structures in the UK that even come close to this are the Stratford box on HS1 and the box that houses the Elizabeth line station at Canary Wharf, but the box for Old Oak Common is much bigger. As mentioned previously, the box is 850 metres in length, however the new 6 platforms will be 450 metres long, with space either side used for tracks to fan out and switches to be installed. The combination of the Victoria Road crossover box that has been constructed to the north of the station, plus the switches on the approach into Old Oak Common, will allow arriving trains to reach all of the 6 platforms, which will allow the station to act as a terminus if required. And in fact, to begin with, the trains from Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool and Glasgow will terminate at Old Oak Common. However, this is only a temporary measure to allow HS2 services to be introduced before Euston is fully complete. Despite the report in a certain newspaper last week, Euston Station is being constructed and will be the eventual terminus for HS2 trains, but it may not be fully complete until 2032 or 2033, whereas it is hoped that HS2 could be open by 2029. As well as having 6 platforms below ground, the station will also have 8 new platforms above ground that will eventually allow passengers to change from HS2 services onto Elizabeth line and GWR services, making it one of the best connected stations in Britain, and as such it is expected to see 250,000 passengers every day. The Great Western Main Line and Elizabeth Line platforms will be constructed roughly in the area which is currently home to the concrete batching plant and the spoil hopper. With the new station being built offline, which basically means away from the Great Western Main Line tracks, then the tracks will be diverted through the new station, thereby minimising disruption to the main line. Moving the tracks will likely require quite a lengthy possession, but this disruption won't be as bad as if the new station had been constructed on the Great Western Main Line itself. The total floor area of the station will be 72,000 square metres, making it one of the biggest stations in the country. The 25,000 square metre roof that will cover the station will be glazed with 13,000 square metres of glass panels, which will open to ventilate the station. The ventilation method, similar to that used at the Reichstag building, will naturally ventilate the station, meaning it shouldn't need to use air conditioning or fans to keep the station cool during summer. As well as using natural ventilation, the roof of the station will also be home to nearly 3,000 square metres of solar panels, and 10,000 energy efficient LED light bulbs will be used to light the station, thus helping the station to achieve a carbon footprint that will effectively be zero for regulated energy use, which means it should require little to no additional energy to power things like lights, lifts and escalators. Excess power produced by the solar panels will either be stored for use at night or exported to the grid. If the power is exported, it should offset the energy needed from the grid at night and therefore could still be considered to have a carbon footprint of zero. So there we are, that's the progress that has been made at Old Oak Common. I'm sure I'll keep you up to date with any major developments over the coming months. Before I go, I'd just like to say a big thank you to my Patreon supporters who help to make videos like this possible, and of course a big thank you to HS2 Limited and the media team for allowing me to visit the site. But I'm going to leave it there for today and say until next time, bye bye.